Aurore Cassel, stunning, saucy, bats them eyes at V so perfectly that her brother, Aymeric, gets forgotten like yesterday's second coffee. It's hard not to see why, because CDPR absolutely knew what they were doing when they designed Aurore. Like, look at this lady, look at her clothes, look at that wink. Aurore even has a cosplay guide, while her brother, I believe, does not. Yet, as we so often see, looks can be very deceiving. Sometimes, beneath that captivating surface, lies a formidable foe. Sometimes, silence can say just as much, if not more, than those boldest of words. Together, these netrunning twins have given the criminal corpo elite a complete, literal run for their money, until their luck finally runs out in a dumpy garage beneath Night City's most vicious district. Hello, my name is Liddy, and welcome to Shaped by Stories, where we unpack how characters shape stories, and how those stories shape us. Let's get into it. Aurore and Aymeric Cassel were born in France, though we don't know the exact age of the twins. My guess is that they were born sometime in the 2040s, maybe the 2050s. This is just based on what we know of the dates of their work history. And yes, most of the work that they've done in their lives is illegal. The Cassel family was decently wealthy enough to afford gene therapy for Aurore, who was born with GJB2 hearing loss. Both twins also received, on top of top-of-the-line medical care, a quality education. It seems that they both developed a shared knack for netrunning from a young age, as they both went into separate careers involving netrunning. Although the paths that each twin chose were, at first, kind of different. Aymeric, the younger of the twins, who also has a terrible allergy to strawberries, began his netrunning career legally, at least in the corpo sense. According to the Codex, he's a formally educated software engineer. Once a corpo, always a corpo. And you can see that in the way Aymeric interacts with V. He's about the money. 100%, as Aymeric is said to have expensive taste. He likes his sports cars. He can admit to Kurt Hansen, at least while V is pretending to be him, that he has a taste for travel. And as the Cyberpunk 2077 wiki points out, this doesn't raise Kurt Hansen's eyebrows. This is something he almost seems to have expected about Aymeric. So maybe this isn't just a thing that V made up on the spot. Aymeric also admires unique and priceless artifacts, like knives. But he's more quiet than anything. He seems for sure the more measured of the twins, as he'd rather not give anybody an edge over him. Like many other corpos, Aymeric practices meditation. We can see that Corpo V practiced meditation in the Corpo intro. We can hear that Rachel Kasich in the Sinnerman questline also practiced meditation. It seems to be a contractually obligated thing that many corpos have to do. But for Aymeric, it seems less to do with contractual obligation. It is genuinely a habit of his. Aymeric's codex describes his belief in quote-unquote spiritual hygiene, meaning he abstains from all recreational drugs and alcohol. He also has this habit, almost in a paranoid sense, of downloading his memories to external drives. He's actually said to have lost some memories of a period between 2072 and 74 when he worked for Petrochem. Those drives were stolen by an unknown thief. Aymeric eventually left the life of a corpo when he realized not the cutthroat realities of corpo life, but rather the lackluster paycheck. Aymeric can admit to V at the Black Sapphire that he couldn't care less about people having a positive opinion of him. He's in business to get what he wants, efficiently, coldly if necessary. There's no frills. He's a very serious person and he's ready for action at any time. The fact that he wears his netrunning suit underneath a designer jacket to the Black Sapphire party says a lot about how ready he is to just jump into the net and get business done. He looks at a guy like Kurt Hansen, who is you know, a run-of-the-mill Night City asshole, but I'd say the only saving grace about Kurt Hansen and Dogtown is that he's relatively honest about how things are run. Like, he's not gonna pull the wool over people's eyes and pretend to be a glorified glitzy corpo running galas and charity things like Aurore kind of suggests he should do. But yeah, Aymeric admires Kurt's way of doing business, as harsh and brutal and murderous as it is. I think it's safe to say that generally, Aymeric is the less likable of the twins. And I also like that he tells us why. Because he literally doesn't care to be likable. He doesn't really care what people think of him. I imagine he would be absolutely vicious to deal with in a combat situation. He doesn't seem like the type to play with his food, unlike his sister. Aurore is the far more charismatic of the two. She's hedonistic, she has a thirst for risk. She drinks heavily, she probably does some drugs when she wants. She flirts, she teases, she talks circles around whoever catches her interest. And she seems to be very attracted to deadly, dangerous people. She's also kind of inflammatory, and even though we only talk to her properly really once, you kind of wonder how much of what Aurore says is her genuine opinions, or if it's just her attempt to get under someone's skin. She certainly gets under her brother's skin. Aurore is the complete opposite of Aymeric, both personally and professionally, as she's a convicted criminal. Aurore didn't waste her time as a corpo, she dove right into the criminal underworld of France's Le Collectif. Le Collectif is a shady organization where, even in-game, people don't know too much about them. The most we can dig up is that they're considered, at least by the author of the Shard, Le Collectif article notes, a near-terrorist organization. In this shard, there's also some speculation that not all cells of Le Collectif know of one another, hinting that some unknown entity, far higher up the food chain, maybe government, maybe corpo, might be in charge. We don't really know, but what we do know is that Aurore Cassel did a lot of law-breaking work for Le Collectif with her netrunning skills, until she crossed the collective herself. The events leading up to Aurore's stint in La Salle prison are unknown, but she did manage to piss off her old organization by this point. She was living decently, however, in the prison's VIP wing. Maybe it's due to her family's money. Maybe she was able to use her abilities as leverage with the government. She definitely sounds like her skills and her background probably gave her a lot of privilege, and she certainly knows how to talk around people to get what she wants. I wouldn't be shocked if the crime that she committed that landed her in prison was one that she didn't even take precautions for and she just went for it. She was down with the risk. She was kind of probably excited about getting caught. Unlike her brother, who would probably be way more careful. This is why he doesn't have a criminal record that we know of. But after 5 years in prison, Aurore walked free, until Le Collectif put a sizable bounty on her head. She wasn't safe in France, not anymore, which likely broke her fashionista heart. France in the Cyberpunk universe is still a fashion capital, and Aurore has a passion for the finest clothes, the most expensive jewelry. But you know, it's not so fun trying on new outfits when you're dead. Loses its luster. Together, Aymeric and Aurore rose to the top of the underground netrunning world, under the name Skylight. For most, their true identity is a mystery. Nobody's even sure if Skylight is a single person or a huge group of people. In the Shard, Skylight, Rising Stars of the Net, it is said that no other netrunner has gained more notice in recent years than Skylight. And this is due to their daring dozen cyber attacks on, quote, the net's best secured servers, stealing data from such megacorps as Petrochem, Zetatech, and Kiroshi. The latest attack on Biotechnica, resulting in the theft and subsequent auctioning of the company's sensitive data, is also attributed to Skylight. The twins have accomplished quite a lot as a duo. You can see the value of a proxy or a fellow skilled netrunner to lean on in a challenging situation, should you play a netrunner V who helps Songbird escape to the moon. When you think about that and combine it with the added benefit of how well the twins probably knew each other, they probably worked excessively well, despite their own bickering. The main point of any contention between the twins was how Aurore liked to play games with people. She was the risk taker in a more fun-loving sense. Whereas Aymeric was not like that. He would only take risks if it was the most logical, efficient option that would give him what he wanted. He wasn't in it for the fun, he was in it for the reward. You can see that difference in the two at the Black Sapphire, when Aurore can tell V her thoughts on Hansen going, quote-unquote, legit.
I mean, Hansen could take dogtown by the throat, eject the junkies, and make it a paradise for billionaires. Just getting rich is dull. You should work for the community, invest, create jobs, throw banquets.
She's getting chatty. Doing good, V.
And charities are excellent washing machines. You launder billions, believe me.
You're so childish, it's beautiful.
What?
Hansen going missionary position in business? Nonsense.
Versus Aymeric's more, why play this game when this is working so well as is, without all the extra bullshit and extra problems? He calls her naive, she waves him off, siblings bickering. But as the shard about Skylight says, how long can they keep this up? As the saying goes, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And they have been burning so very, very brightly. Despite the laundry list of ops that have gone off without a hitch, there is one that turned the twins' blood to ice. One that they should have stayed far away from once they escaped it. The op that would, some years later, indirectly lead to their death. Project Cynosure's roots extend all the way back to the 2010s, when Militech was looking to answer Arasaka's own netrunning project, Soulkiller. They sought to capture rogue AIs and harness them into their own code-scorching weapons. I'm sure it wasn't easy trying to corral a bunch of rogue AIs with 2010's tech, and eventually, after increased risk, the project was shuttered. After the lab lay dormant for decades, Militech shook off the dust, quietly, in the mid-2060s, only now with a new focus: to tame and gain control of the Blackwall. The op might not have necessarily started that way. Initially, they wanted to reboot the project and capture rogue AIs, just with the better tech and with the assistance of the finest netrunners money could buy. Enter the Cassel Twins. It's said in facility emails that the Cassel Twins were equipped with a cushy office, that they were treated exceptionally well by management. They, like numerous other unnamed netrunners, were hired by Militech. But as time went on, and these netrunners, considered the top of their field, were picked off one by one in all of these experiments, the Cassel Twins, from what we can glean in some emails in the Cynosure facility, seemed to recognize the danger that they were in. They realized, I think, the insanity and the terrible potential of what they signed up for. And I mean, it would be hard not to recognize it, considering what we can read. We can see through Songbird's interactions with the Blackwall how disastrous simply working with it is. And you can read emails throughout Cynosure detailing common side effects suffered by netrunners who worked on this project. Memory loss, depression, melancholy. It's said that every single netrunner involved was displaying signs of psychological decline following these experiments. One netrunner even wrote that she was hearing voices. As the project shifted its attentions from rogue AIs to the Blackwall itself, the twins began to indirectly butt heads with Militech. In this following email, Militech Cynosure researcher Lisa Smith says, "Evan, you were right about those twins. Except it's not because they're from Europe or that they get a cushy office instead of slumming it like the rest of us. It's just that they're whacked in the head, the brother especially. During connection, he doesn't say a word. He just stares at you with his dead eyes like he's planning your murder. Either way, they're starting to assert themselves, give us orders, question our expertise. Almost like they're afraid of something. Did you know that they suggested to the board we should start wrapping things up here soon? I don't know, maybe this is just the paranoia talking, but I get the feeling they don't want us to get to the bottom of our research here. So then who the fuck are they really working for? Don't write back. I don't even know if I'll actually send this. I already feel better just getting this off my chest. It is a shame that we don't get to ask the twins any questions about their work for the Cynosure project. But I personally think that they were trying to sabotage the actual project, not out of the goodness of their heart or out of an interest in the common good. I think they were doing it because they recognized the danger that they were in. They recognized, like many netrunners, including Slider, the danger of fucking with the Blackwall. Even if the twins managed to survive being pushed into the Blackwall, as they were contractually bound to do in all likelihood, we can find records in the facility of other netrunners who were roasted and fried by attempted interactions with the Blackwall. Who knows what any of their work on the project would let out of the Blackwall? What disasters could they unleash upon the world? Upon themselves? Maybe Aymeric's tendency to put his memories on external drives stems from this project. Maybe there's more behind that than simple spiritual hygiene. Maybe he's got a bit of paranoia from his experiences with that project. For all we know, he could still have memory lapses to this day in general. Maybe the reason why his memories with Petrochem were stolen was to uncover knowledge on Project Cynosure. Maybe his reported assholery was due to more than just simply being born a dick. It sounds like he had a reason to despise the project managers for how hard they were pushing them towards a horrific death. Maybe Aurore drinks and celebrates and parties and takes as many adrenaline-fueled risks as she does to try and escape the memories of those voices. The whispers in the walls, etched beneath her nails, whispering from the shadows of each steel corridor. Ooh. I'm sure they were both always sketchy people because of the criminal work they were both doing, but like, I would not be shocked if this fucked them up a lot. Aurore and Aymeric managed to get out of the project alive after its official shutdown. They escaped with unique access codes, data, and of course their own experience with the project. You'd think that they'd know better than to retread that old ground, but the call of eddies and the call of power and wealth and the call of Kurt Hansen was just too much for them to resist. Both twins appreciate those things despite their differences, and so back to Dogtown they went, at Kurt Hansen's request. Although my brain is going in the direction of like a semi-indoctrination theory, maybe they were hearing voices or something from the Blackwall that were telling them to come back, to use the neural matrix to, I don't know. The indoctrination theory is great. That's total side note Mass Effect. You can tell it's on my brain lately. Anyway, Kurt Hansen had recently unearthed that neural matrix that contained a Cynosure AI. Somehow he tracked down the twins and found out they had knowledge of the project, and that's why he wanted them to come to Dogtown and help him fire up this thing again. It's also said multiple times that Kurt Hansen didn't actually realize what was on that neural matrix, at least not really. His interest was in seeing if it was anything that could hurt the NUSA. But I kind of think that the twins had to have known what was on it, or at least had an idea of what was on it. At the Sapphire, V has to get the twins' behavioral data in the casino so they can disguise themselves and Alex as the twins for an upcoming meeting with Kurt Hansen. You gotta turn on that NC charm, especially considering how Reed goes MIA. And yeah, that's where we get the wink scene that made Aurore a character people mourned immensely, from what I can see, despite her short amount of screen time. And I gotta say, God, I love her look. Like, look at the design, that suit, the colors with her red hair, her makeup, the choker, oh my god. She is, for me, the most striking character in the whole game. Aurore wants to meet Carrie Eurodyne's Taylor, well, I want to meet hers, because, like, fashion touchstone. Move over, Aymeric, get out of here, Reed, I have real important questions to ask. This is what the op was actually for, at least for MAYBE. The twins here, though, do show a key feature, the feature that would lead to their downfall. This has to do with V's big move of convincing the twins to take a huge risk, to take the bait and bet all of their earnings that night to either win everything, including all of V's money, or lose it all. Either way, this is gonna give V the giant reaction that V's gonna need to copy their behavioral imprint. Both Aymeric and Aurore take the bait, even if Aymeric is a bit more reserved. They can't resist the promise of that huge reward. And ultimately, that big risk, big reward way of looking at things would be what gets them killed. In the car ride that I'm about to talk about, there's a dialogue that you can overhear between the twins where they're aware that their presence there could cause quite the shitstorm. But as Aymeric says, we're here to do our part, make our money, and then get out of Dodge. They know they're in deep here, but it's like they could not resist the call of the wealth, of the power, of the prestige of Kurt Hansen. The twins kind of do talk up a big game when they're not alone, but when they are alone in that car, you can kind of see some of the doubts they have that they only share between themselves. Also, apparently, fun fact, that whole game at the table with the twins is random with each playthrough. There is no set way it goes. Which I kind of love that from a storytelling purpose. It really does go to show that sometimes that risk is gonna fuck you over and there's nothing you can do about it except not take the risk. But then sometimes you do take the risk and you get the big reward. Is dangerous indeed. Aymeric loves cars. Aurore loves revelry. This opens up the perfect opportunity for V to ruin their lives. While Aymeric was in Night City, he wanted to rent a luxury car. If he was going to be driving his sister around Night City, he's going to do it in a car that he enjoys driving. This opens up a hacking point where V gets a tracer of sorts on the twins through the agency's network before the network shuts them out. V is able to identify their car on the day of the big meeting with Kurt Hansen, where they're set to activate the neural matrix with Song So Mi. But first, they stop by, I believe, the Heavy Hearts Club to have some last-minute fun. Or at least Aurore is, and Aymeric is just there to drive and make sure she doesn't get completely shit-faced. When the twins return to the car, Aurore is complaining about a hangover, she's feeling like shit, and her brother is annoyed that she drank so much the night before. V hops in the trunk of the car and hides, ready to take control of the vehicle and reroute the twins en route to the stadium. If V waits to the last possible second to control the car, you can actually overhear the twins talking about Slider, who either the Blackwall or Solomon Reed executed as part of an earlier quest. Through this eavesdropping, you can start a quest where you find Slider's stash using a file you can download from Aurore's head. But should V not take control of the car, should you just wait a little too long, the twins will detect you and you will be fried. When V does hack the car, however, the twins freak out and they put up a bit of a fight. But a Netrunner V especially is equipped to handle this, and they do drive the twins over to that dingy parking garage, where Alex and Reed rip them out of the car, not a single word at all, and execute them immediately. There was no word of warning even to V that this was going to happen. And V can be quite upset by this. And I think the reason is a lot deeper than the real world disappointment of having lost one of the coolest looking characters, and also, in general, two very interesting side characters who would have probably had a lot of cool things to say about Project Cynosure. First of all, V's anger does make sense, because they weren't told about the intended execution. V was misled. They were left out of the loop. If it wasn't clear already, V is not fully trusted by Reed, even by Alex. Aurore and Aymeric, once Reed, Alex, and V had all they needed from them, were expendable and executed before they could escape. And not even a physical escape was the biggest issue with these two. They could surely find an access point to hack as soon as they regained consciousness. They're some of the best netrunners in the world. So I can understand why Reed and Alex determined that they had to be taken out of the picture. But the core of what makes this such an upsetting thing for V, and also a really important narrative moment for us to recognize, is that it really falls in line with a pattern that we've seen Reed carrying out throughout the story. First of all, you remember those two guys that we can ally with in Lucretia, My Reflection, Jacob and Taylor? And now I'm thinking of Jacob Taylor, the most wasted character in Mass Effect, saving that for his video. Pickman Wolf's video on Jacob Taylor is awesome if you want to hear a really good, interesting take on Jacob Taylor. Jacob and Taylor disappear. We never see them again after Myers is evacuated. And yes, you can find a list Myers made in the Dogtown hideout where she seems to be reminding herself to set aside funds to pay for that car that either Jacob or Taylor wants as payment. But all Reed says afterwards is that they were taken care of. And then there's Slider, who Reed will execute if the Blackwall doesn't fry him first. There is no way to stop this. And then there's the Cassel Twins. There's no way around that either. And then, at the end, there is potentially V. Should you stand between Reed and Songbird, he will always attempt to kill you. If you're not quick enough, he will kill you. And sure, he gives you a chance to back away, but yeah, he'll always still flatline you, unless you give up So Me. Perhaps the saving grace is that he will follow through with his word and get V to Langley, should you choose the Phantom Liberty ending. But still, when up against the wall, V is also expendable to Reed. Everybody who's not FIA is expendable. God, I'm looking forward to getting into his character because he really is very interesting. V is, just like the Cassel Twins, ultimately a pawn. You know, why stop there? Everybody in this game is a pawn to somebody, especially in Phantom Liberty. Like, everybody is being used by somebody else to accomplish this on the board there and this on the board here. We're all just bit players. No matter how powerful the characters might think they are, how in control they might think they are, or how noble they think they are, at the end of the day, we're just tiny fish. But I do like the parallels between the Cassel Twins and V, who went into Konpeki Tower to be there with Jackie. No matter how tough, capable, intelligent, and strong all of these characters may have thought themselves, all these criminals for hire burnt just as fast as they burned bright. And though it wasn't their only crime, they simply flew far too high for their own good. Classic Night City story. At least I get to keep Aurore's outfit though, that makes me happy. Great job, CDPR, great job. Game of the year. Thank you so much for watching the Cassel Twins video. Aurore has had so many requests. She's like number 5 on my request list, not her brother. Everybody just forgets about Aymeric. It's pretty funny. It's like Aurore and her brother. But I find Aymeric to be really interesting too. The more that I read into him, both of them, like, they are excellent examples of side characters who barely appear, who still have a big role in the movement of the plot, who seems super interesting and fleshed out, even though we get to know next to nothing about them. I'm sad they died, but I get it. Let me know what you think of their involvement with Cynosure. Do you think that they were always the way that they are now, or do you think Cynosure genuinely did screw them up? Do you think that the voices of the Blackwall, the indoctrination theory thing, that they were lured back into NC, not just because of Kurt Hansen, but because of the voices beneath Dogtown? Because yeah, you can see all the signs around Dogtown saying Mother is watching, and some of the addicts running around Dogtown or stumbling around Dogtown say really creepy things about stuff going on and voices in the underground. Maybe there's something to that. We'll never know because they did know. Thank you so much, members, for your support of this channel, for assisting in the shaping of the videos and the stories. Members, if the FIA tried to flatline you and steal your identity, I would tell them that that is not a joke, and Bela would save the day and kick all the FIA agents and be like, you're free now, let's get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot. Every like, subscribe, comment keeps the channel going. Have a good one, guys, and I will see you again in the next one. Goodbye.